Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, are Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni beefing? The quick backstory here, and then, of course, we'll dive into it in further detail. Hurts last week from mandatory minicamp was asked about the new Nick Sirianni, being malleable, giving up offensive play calling, and really throwing his offensive system in the trash to bring in Kellen Moore. And Hurts' response, not really a ringing endorsement. He didn't have much to say in backing up and supporting Sirianni. So that has caused a lot of speculation. Are the quarterback and head coach butting heads? Stay tuned for a great conversation on that. But first, what's really cool about being on YouTube, and I host shows here, I used to be on television where you would get access to data, you'd get access to ratings, but sometimes it would be a little bit vague. Here on YouTube, you can see everything. Subscribers picked up, of course, revenue, watch time, but also where people are watching from. And Eagles Now worldwide, it's no joke. It's a real statement. We have people watching this show from literally everywhere, which I think is really cool because you're coming to me and producer Chip and us here at Chat Sports to get your Eagles news. So I want to know right now where you're watching from, rep your city, comment it down below, and let's start the show. And this is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. Let's set the foundation with the conversation that we're going to have. Jalen Hurts asked about what he noticed about Nick Sirianni being open-minded enough to change the offensive system. Throw his offensive system away, bring in Kellen Moore, who has a lot of experience in this league in drawing up plays, implementing his system, and his offense is being very, very successful. He's a veteran offensive mind, and with the Dallas Cowboys, some of his offense is some of the best in the history of the NFL, if not that year, some of the best units in the National Football League. He goes to the Chargers last year, a lot of injuries to Justin Herbert, Brandon Staley, lame duck head coach who got fired, so it didn't really work out well. I'm glad that Kellen Moore is here, but when Hurts is asked about Sirianni handing over the offense to Kellen Moore and the new Sirianni, Hurts responded with, and there was a long pause. Then he had a little bit of a chuckle, and then he answered that question eventually in a somewhat awkward fashion. And we know how Jalen Hurts sometimes carries himself in public settings. He is not the easiest person to read. He's very short. He's stoic. He won't reveal much. Some people made a big deal of this last year because whether the Eagles were winning, whether the Eagles were losing, it was Hurts on the sideline like this. Same face, cool, calm, and collected, a flatliner. I do think that those traits are important to have at the quarterback position. You never want to be too high. You never want to be too low. You kind of want to be even keel. But sometimes as a team captain, as the face of the organization, the face of the city, the face of the franchise, you have to step up. Sometimes you have to go Tom Brady and get after your teammates and get people pumped up. With Hurts, he just is who he is. Again, short, stoic, right to the punch, and sometimes he doesn't really reveal anything at all. But this felt something along the lines of, and the uncertainty of it, with, do you want to marry her? And there's some, usually that's not great. Your mom, your dad, they come up to you, do you want to marry her? Do you want to marry him? And you respond with, or your significant other, do you want to get married? Do you think that I can be the person of your future and we can live a long, happy, healthy, prosperous life together? If you respond, usually it's not great, right? So Sirianni changes the way that he goes about things, and he admitted that and got real about it earlier this offseason, and Hurts is asked about the new Sirianni, and he responds with, just not a ringing endorsement to support your head coach. That's why we're having this talk here, and this is the direct quote and the exchange from Jalen Hurts during his press conference last week. I mean, that's a great question that I don't know the answer to it. I think he's just been great in the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional what he's saying. There was another pause. Yeah. End of sentence. And then the press conference moved on. That is just very awkward. And it's worth discussing because remember last year when the Eagles were free falling and Jalen Hurts was asked, do you want Nick Sirianni back in 2024 as your head coach? And this is what Hurts had to say. I didn't know that he was going anywhere. I didn't know that. Jalen Hurts had the opportunity to say, I want Nick Sirianni back. He's the head coach for this football team. Last year, he was the head coach when we made it to the Super Bowl and I finished runner-up as MVP. I support Nick Sirianni. We've had a lot of success here in Philadelphia. Usually, if you love your head coach, you will say something emphatically. You will say something convincingly to send a message and let it be known, my coach has my back, and Nick Sirianni has had Jalen Hurts' back so many times, standing up for Hurts when he makes a mistake, saying, we're going to stick with Jalen Hurts through his struggles back in 2021, believing in Hurts as a person, as a quarterback in this league. Nick Sirianni's been there for Hurts. He's taken public shots for Jalen Hurts just to stand up for his quarterback. Hurts isn't really doing that for his head coach. He's not doing it right now, and he didn't do it last year. Then Hurts is asked if he has confidence in Nick Sirianni to fix whatever happened last year, which caused that collapse, which was really, really ugly and public. Hurts' answer to that, I have a ton of confidence in everyone in this building. He did not single-handedly say, I have a ton of confidence in Nick Sirianni. Again, Jalen Hurts has an opportunity here to set the record straight. And I know that Hurts is short. I know that Hurts doesn't reveal much, but let's not act like Hurts is a dummy. Hurts is very calculated with what he talks about. Hurts is very calculated with what he says. He grew up as a coach's son. He played under Nick Saban. He played under Lincoln Riley. He's played in big games for big programs at the college level, at the NFL level. This is a smart individual and a smart player. To me, he knows what he's doing. And look, we hear the mundane coach speak answers all the time. Jalen Hurts could have gone that route. Again, as a coach's son. Nick is great. We support him. I'll always support my head coach and have his back. What happened with the collapse? We all deserve blame for what happened last year. A.J. Brown said that. He said, it's on us. It's not on the coaching staff. Jalen Hurts could have also said, credit to coach for being accountable. Looking in the mirror and understanding that his vanilla offense with no pre-snap motion, with shitty route concepts, wasn't going to cut it. So what did he do? He did what good head coaches do. Look in the mirror, take accountability, take action, make a change, and he brought in a new offensive mind. Hurts didn't do that. And when you leave the door open, especially in this city, when you have smart fans and you have a crew of media members who salivate over pouncing on stories like this, who can sense bullshit, who can sense drama, what happens when you leave the door open in this city, which has a good pulse on things and can gauge the temperature on things? And media members at the NovaCare complex, they can sense the awkwardness from Jalen Hurts. The drama and the speculation, it ensues. Keep in mind, it's in the middle of June. Sometimes you have to talk about rumors. Sometimes you have to get creative with what you talk about on shows like this and on sports talk radio. But this has certainly caused sports talk radio hosts in Philly to go off in criticizing Jalen Hurts, saying it's not a good look for him, and Jeffrey Lurie should be pissed as the Eagles owner. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, another question for you. Is this a big deal? B for big deal, end for no biggie at all. It's the middle of June. Nobody has anything to talk about. So we're coming up with stuff because there is nothing to discuss. Let me know. Share your thoughts with me down below in the comment section. I want to share with you my thoughts on this shirt. It's so awesome that I had to get one myself. On sale for just $22. The Brotherly Shove. The most efficient, most dominant play, and the most Philadelphia play ever. Chatsports.com/brotherly shove. You use that link down below. You can get that shirt for just $22. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of this video. So as I alluded to and teased up, sports radio on fire in Philadelphia right now. Everybody has these different types of opinions with what they think of this subject matter. And I want to point to what Joe DeCamara had to say on the WIP morning show because he's not happy at all with how Jalen Hurts handled this. What a pathetic and disgraceful way to answer a question. I think Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are ticked, as they should be. Jalen just did a horrible job with his answer. I think Lurie is probably really, really ticked. Jeffrey Lurie decided to stand by Nick Sirianni. He chose to have him as the coach of a football team with championship aspirations. And for the quarterback to act that way to me last week, I thought Jalen acted like a baby with the way that he answered that question. I think he's playing with some fire. Of course, you listen to that and then you read it. Is it sports talk radio banter or is it a real thing? Think about this from Jeffrey Lurie's standpoint, right? We are so blessed as Eagles fans to have Lurie as the owner of this team. He's aggressive. He's willing to spend. He allows Howie Roseman to do his thing. He always wants to win. He's somewhat hands-on, but not to the level of Jerry Jones. He's always willing to be accountable. He runs one of the most seamless operations in the National Football League among 32 teams. It's impressive. And Lurie as an owner, he thinks things through very deeply. He assesses. He's not reactionary. He's very thorough in the choices and the decisions that he makes as the owner of this football team. And going back to deciding to keep Nick Sirianni as the head coach of this team, he thought long and hard about Sirianni's future. We didn't hear from him for a while. We didn't hear about a decision on Nick Sirianni for a really long time. But after a lot of thinking, Jeffrey Lurie came to the decision it was the right move to retain Sirianni because he thought that was the best move for this football team. But now you have the face of the franchise not really supporting him, not having his back, not really giving him a ringing endorsement. At least that's the way it comes off. Look, Jeffrey Lurie, in making this decision, it could have been easy. Look at this man's face from when the Eagles were getting crushed, annihilated, dump trucked, steamrolled by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round. 10-12 to go in the fourth quarter, prime time. Eagles slipping, Eagles collapsing at the end of last year. They're down 25-9. Offense was a hot pile of garbage. The defense couldn't come through with the stop. They couldn't tackle. And honestly, they're lucky that the Buccaneers only scored 25 points at this juncture of the ball game because of some of the drops and some of the missed plays that Tampa Bay had, which could have made this score a lot worse. This is Jeffrey Lurie in the owner's booth. He's irate. He's angry. He's confused. This looked like a mob boss who had to whack one of his own. And the man that he had to whack was Nick Sirianni. This looked like a man who was going to fire Nick Sirianni. He decided to bring him back. And from Joe DeCamara's standpoint, now Jalen Hurts isn't really supporting the head coach that the organization is rallying around here, which made it to the playoffs in all 3 years that he's been at the helm, which made it to the Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago, which really helped pick up the dumpster fire that was Doug Peterson's final year, helped rebuild the Eagles really quickly, where in year 2, they're playing for the Super Bowl and should have won. So I can see both sides here. Hurts with the way that he conducts himself, but to me, you got to support your head coach a little bit. It's just easy to come out and do that coach speak, quarterback speak, where you give a vanilla answer, but the vanilla answer can go a long way. Instead, he left the door open for some controversy and some drama. Whose side are you on? JH for Jalen Hurts, NS for Nick Sirianni. Wanted to have that conversation here on today's Eagles. Now, hope you enjoyed the show. I can imagine the comment section is on fire right now. I can't wait to go back and engage.